The Expedition Bigfoot team captured the clearest footage in the show's history, a figure moving through the forest with speed, size, and intent no known animal can match. The clip shocked the crew, forced production to halt, and left investigators shaken. Before we break down what really happened, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what the network hasn't aired yet. It started as a routine sweep, nothing unusual, nothing the Expedition Bigfoot crew hadn't done 100 times before. The team split into two groups, with Bryce monitoring sensors from the tech hub, while Russell and Mireya moved along a narrow ridge dense with fir trees and thick underbrush. Earlier in the day, the drone operator picked up a strange thermal hit, too tall, too wide, and moving too smoothly to be a bear. But the image was distorted, and the team dismissed it as atmospheric interference. No one knew that the same figure would return after dark, and this time it would step into view. Just after 11 p.m., the woods fell silent. Not quieter, silent. Birds stopped calling. Crickets cut off mid-chirp. Even the wind died. Russell whispered into his mic that the air felt charged, the same way lightning builds before a storm. Then, a seismic sensor, placed earlier to track large animal movement, triggered 3 consecutive alerts. Each impact hit harder than the last, spaced in a pattern that suggested deliberate steps. Heavy, slow, calculated. The data coming into Bryce's monitor showed weight far above any known wildlife in the region. Russell signaled the drone pilot to reposition the infrared unit overhead. The drone adjusted, scanning between trees, catching only faint movement, branches shifting, leaves trembling, but no visible source. Mireya reported feeling watched, her voice tightening as she scanned the tree line with night vision. On a second monitor, Bryce saw something new, a shape breaking the thermal line. Not a blob, not a glitch, a form, upright, broad, moving with intent. Then it happened. Between 2 trees roughly 40 yards from Russell's position, something stepped forward. The camera caught it, fully, cleanly, unmistakably. A massive silhouette, shoulders impossibly wide, head high above the brush line. It moved with a smoothness no heavy animal should have. And then, as if realizing it had been seen, the figure froze. The camera recorded every second. This wasn't another blur. This wasn't a heat distortion. For the first time, the Expedition Bigfoot crew had captured clear footage of something alive and terrifyingly real. Back at the mobile command unit, Bryce Johnson replayed the clip again and again, each time hoping the figure would resolve into something familiar. An elk rising on its hind legs, a hunter caught in night vision, even a bear brushing against a tree. But the more he zoomed in, the more impossible the footage became. The outline was precise, shoulders too squared for any quadruped, arms noticeably long, nearly reaching to the knees. The stride length measured at almost 4 feet. No animal in the region matched these proportions, not even close. Russell returned to base camp first, visibly shaken. He didn't speak until Bryce turned the monitor toward him. When he saw the paused frame, an enormous silhouette paused mid-step. Russell exhaled hard and whispered, "That's not a bear." It wasn't fear in his voice. It was recognition, like a tracker finally confirming the creature behind the prints he'd followed for years. Mireya arrived moments later, and her reaction was even more telling. She leaned in, studying the limb placement, posture, and gait. Her background in primate behavior made the image more disturbing. The figure moved like an ape, but none existed in North America. Not at this size, and not in this terrain. Then they played the audio. A low-frequency rumble, barely audible to human ears, vibrated beneath the footage. It wasn't a growl. It wasn't wind. It was rhythmic, almost like a sub-harmonic vocalization. Mireya's expression changed immediately. Certain primates communicate using low infrasound to assert dominance or signal territorial claims. If this creature was doing the same, it meant one thing. It knew the team was there. The crew's internal chat lit up as the drone operator sent a message. "Look at the eyes." Bryce hesitated, but zoomed further. When the figure briefly turned its head, 2 small reflective points flashed back at the camera, positioned further apart than any known mammal. This wasn't normal red-eye reflection. It was something else entirely, something suggesting binocular vision designed for tracking. The final moment sealed it. As the figure stepped behind the trees, the thermal signature didn't fade. It burst, as if the creature's body temperature spiked, or it exerted sudden force. The reading jumped faster than any natural animal response. For the first time in the show's history, the crew wasn't debating possibilities. They were staring at evidence that should not exist. With the footage confirmed as authentic, the team made the rare decision to pursue in real time. Normally, any clear sighting forced an immediate strategic retreat, but this was different. If they hesitated, the creature would vanish, leaving nothing but another unsolved mystery. Bryce directed Russell and Mireia to move in carefully from opposite angles, hoping to triangulate the creature's path while avoiding direct confrontation. Every step they took was measured, deliberate, and painfully slow. The forest responded almost instantly. As Russell advanced, the underbrush shifted, not violently, but with a rhythm that suggested something large pacing parallel to him. Every time he stopped, the movement stopped as well. Every time he stepped forward, the unseen presence resumed. It was mirroring him, tracking him. The realization tightened his chest, but he pressed on, whispering updates into his mic. Mireia, on a lower slope, reported something equally disturbing. 3 stones landing near her feet, one after another, tossed from an unseen position deeper in the woods. None were thrown with force. They simply dropped into the brush, as if meant as a signal rather than a threat. Primates sometimes use this behavior to warn intruders. The seismic sensors spiked again, this time with a different pattern. Instead of heavy, deliberate steps, the readings now showed short bursts of movement, almost like something darting across the forest floor with unnatural speed. Bryce watched the data scroll across his screen and realized something chilling. The creature wasn't retreating. It was circling, studying the team as they attempted to approach. Thermal scans from the drone overhead confirmed this. Instead of heading away from the investigators, the heat signature looped around the ridge and reappeared behind Russell, close enough that the drone detected direct body heat through the canopy. Russell didn't hear a sound, didn't feel a breath, didn't sense a presence. But the drone operator insisted. Something massive stood in the shadows behind him for nearly 5 seconds before vanishing again. Mireia's situation escalated even faster. Her audio equipment picked up a vocalization, deep, resonant, almost like a throated hum. The sound vibrated through her chest rather than her ears. A frequency felt more than heard. Animals don't vocalize like this, not in the Cascades, not anywhere near this pitch. As she whispered into her mic that she was backing out, her voice shook for the first time in her career. The creature wasn't fleeing from them. It was herding them, studying their moves, guiding their path, and demonstrating intelligence far beyond any known primate. As the creature continued circling the team, Bryce ordered the drone to pull back and widen its radius. The hope was to capture a full-body thermal outline, something clear enough to compare against known species. What the drone recorded instead made Bryce's stomach drop. The heat signature wasn't just large, it fluctuated in a way no animal should. The torso glowed brighter than the limbs, as if the creature's core temperature surged with adrenaline or intention. This wasn't a stable biological pattern. It looked more like controlled bursts of energy. Russell, still moving along the ridge, spotted something unusual ahead. A tree, thick, mature, solid, began to sway, even though no wind was present. The movement wasn't random. It rocked once, twice, and then bent sharply, like something massive had gripped it. Russell raised his thermal monocular and saw a shape behind the trunk, a tall, upright form leaning against it, partially hidden. The upper body was unmistakable, shoulders that sloped forward, a head that darted slightly, as if checking multiple angles. What happened next was caught by both Russell's camera and the drone above. The creature stepped out, fully, deliberately, into an open patch of forest, illuminated by moonlight. For the first time in Expedition Bigfoot history, the team captured a full, unobstructed silhouette, broad chest, long arms, and a posture too human to be dismissed as an animal. But there was something worse. It stood still, unmoving, as if intentionally presenting itself. It didn't look startled or threatened. It looked aware, observant, almost curious. darkness. Then the eyes reflected again, not with the dull glow of typical nighttime eye shine, but with a sharp, almost metallic glint. 2 points of light fixed directly on Russell. The camera jittered as Russell instinctively stumbled back. The creature responded instantly. It tilted its head, a slow, deliberate movement, like a predator assessing whether the human in front of it was a threat. The mic on Russell's vest picked up his breathing, rapid and uneven. He whispered that the creature was testing boundaries. Before he could finish the sentence, the figure moved, not with the heavy stomping of a bear, nor the bounding leaps of a deer. It glided, a smooth, controlled motion that covered distance too quickly for its size. In 3 strides, it was out of sight, but the terror didn't end there. As Russell tried to regroup, a loud crack echoed behind him, the unmistakable sound of something snapping a branch thicker than a human forearm. It wasn't a random break. It was a warning, a message, a demonstration of strength. The footage captured everything, and for the first time, the team realized the creature wasn't just avoiding contact. It was managing the encounter, deciding how close the humans could get. Russell's warning crack still echoed when Bryce issued a direct order: fall back to the rendezvous point immediately. The team had enough evidence to review, and the creature's behavior was growing unpredictable. But the forest had other plans. As Russell and Mireia began withdrawing, the seismic sensors triggered again, this time in rapid succession, forming a pattern that mimicked pursuit. Heavy impacts, fast impacts. Something was moving parallel to them, matching their retreat pace. Step for step, Mireia radioed that she could hear breathing. Not her own, not an echo, but a low, guttural exhale coming from the darkness beside the trail. Every time she stopped, it stopped. Every time she moved, it resumed. The audio equipment strapped to her pack captured the sound clearly. It wasn't the breath of a bear or elk. It was too steady, too controlled, and filled with an unmistakable presence of intent. Back at base, Bryce stared at the live drone feed with growing unease. The thermal signature reappeared behind the crew, just 60 yards back, partially obscured by trees. The creature wasn't fleeing anymore. It was shadowing them, tracking their movements with unnerving precision. The drone operator tried to spotlight the figure, but every attempt failed. The creature dipped into coverage the instant the drone adjusted, as if it understood the angles, the blind spots, the limitations of the equipment. Russell whispered that he could feel the ground tremble beside him, not shaking, pulsing, like something massive stepped softly but powerfully in the soil. Then came the moment that rattled the entire team. A rock the size of a baseball arced through the darkness and landed mere feet from Russell's position. This wasn't a stumble or dislodged debris. It was a throw, calculated, accurate, and forceful enough to send a clear message. Bryce called for an emergency extraction route, but the creature's behavior escalated. The thermal feed showed it moving in short bursts, fast, strategic, almost tactical. It would rush forward 30 feet, stop completely, then reposition again. Predators do this when driving prey. The fear shifted into something colder. The creature wasn't reacting to them. It was controlling their path. As the team approached a narrow canyon that led back to camp, the drone captured a moment that made Bryce's voice crack through the radio. The creature stepped into view again, this time at the canyon mouth, blocking the exit for a split second before vanishing into shadow. It wasn't an accident. It was a test, a demonstration of dominance. The message was unmistakable. This is my territory. You leave when I decide. The crew had stumbled into a chase, neither side fully initiated, but one, the creature, fully controlled. When the team finally made it back to camp, shaken and breathless, Bryce immediately ordered the footage uploaded to the command system for a full-frame analysis. This was standard protocol after any major sighting, but within minutes, it became clear that nothing about this night was going to be standard. The moment the clip stabilized on the screen, every person in the room went silent. The figure wasn't just visible. It was defined with musculature, posture, and movement that could not be dismissed as misidentification. The first step was running the video through a motion enhancement algorithm, something typically used to sharpen fast-moving wildlife. But when the program attempted to track the creature's limb movement, the system glitched, dropping frames, redrawing outlines, struggling to classify the figure as anything biologically familiar. The algorithm's species identification function, meant to categorize animals by movement pattern, returned a result the team had never seen before. No match, unknown biped. The second analysis, thermal reconstruction, was even stranger. The creature's core temperature spiked during moments of stillness rather than exertion. This went against every known mammalian response. Bryce rewound the clip to the exact moment the creature tilted its head toward Russell. The thermal reading jumped dramatically, as if the creature's internal temperature responded to awareness or focus. Mireya suggested this could indicate a biological mechanism not yet documented, a way of regulating heat for speed or sensory advantage. Then came the part that made Bryce lean back in his chair, stunned. When he slowed the footage to 1/10 speed, something subtle but unmistakable emerged. The creature's facial shape. The outline showed a pronounced brow ridge, sloped forehead, and a jawline too elongated for a human. But the most disturbing detail was its mouth. As Russell stumbled and gasped, the creature's lips moved, not in a snarl, not in a roar, but in a small, controlled motion that looked almost like mimicry, as if it were imitating the sound of human breathing. The audio track confirmed this. Under Russell's mic feed, buried beneath the forest noise, was a faint exhale that matched his own rhythm, about half a second delayed. Not animalistic, not accidental, intentional, coordinated. The creature wasn't just following them, it was listening, responding, mirroring, a level of behavioral intelligence that pushed the situation into terrifying new territory. When Bryce isolated the eyes, enhancement filters picked up something reflective, not caused by camera glare. A thin, wet sheen, similar to primate tapetum, but positioned differently. The spacing was wider than a gorilla's, but narrower than a moose's. It suggested stereoscopic depth perception, identical to apex predators. The more they slowed the footage, the clearer one conclusion became. This creature wasn't just avoiding detection, it was studying the team, perhaps even assessing them. And for the first time in the show's history, the biggest fear wasn't that they had captured Bigfoot on camera, but that Bigfoot now understood the crew's methods as well. While Bryce and the tech team analyzed the footage frame by frame, Russell and Mireya stepped outside the command unit to collect themselves. The night was still unnaturally quiet, as if the forest had not yet recovered from whatever presence had moved through it. Russell kept glancing toward the tree line, replaying the creature's head tilt in his mind. There was something calculated in that gesture, something that suggested not just awareness, but intention. Mireya, normally the voice of scientific grounding, admitted in a low voice that the creature's behavior matched advanced primate strategies used only when observing another intelligent group. "It wasn't escaping," she whispered. "It was evaluating us." Inside the command unit, the drone operator called Bryce over with shaky urgency. He had gone back through raw drone telemetry, data that wasn't part of the video feed but recorded automatically. As he overlaid the movement logs, a chilling pattern emerged. The creature had been tracking the entire team long before anyone realized. Not from one direction, but from 3 separate points throughout the night. It had moved in arcs, repositioning itself strategically around the investigators, like a tactician, like a hunter that understood perimeter control. Mireya rushed back inside as Bryce projected the creature's movement paths onto a digital map. The lines traced along ridges, dips, and natural cover points, routes used by predators who understand terrain advantage. But the creature had also paused at unusual intervals, stopping at elevated positions with clear sightlines toward the team's flashlights and gear. These pauses weren't random, they were observation posts. The creature had been watching them closer and longer than anyone realized. Then came the most unsettling discovery. When the team synced the seismic sensor timestamps with the drone footage, they realized the creature manipulated its weight to control what the sensors detected. During pursuit, it moved heavily. During observation, it moved lightly, sometimes registering no impact at all. This wasn't instinct. It was adjustment, control, conscious alteration of pressure to minimize detection. No known animal performs this behavior, but military personnel do. Experienced hunters do. This creature understood more than movement. It understood stealth. The realization rippled through the room. They were not tracking it. It had been tracking them the entire night. As the crew debated their next steps, a sudden audio ping interrupted the panic. One of the remote microphones, left near the ridge, picked up a deep, resonant vocalization. Not a growl, not a roar. A long, low harmonic pulse that vibrated through the equipment. The pitch matched the subharmonic tones recorded earlier, but this time, it carried a different pattern. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Another pause. Almost like a signal. Almost like communication. And as the audio repeated, a cold truth settled in the room. The creature wasn't just reacting to the team. It was sending a message back. As the harmonic pulses echoed through the speakers, the entire command unit froze. The sound wasn't random. It followed structure, timing, spacing, and modulation, too deliberate to be an accident. Bryce ordered an immediate comparison against known animal calls, but the database returned the same result the motion algorithm had earlier. No match. Unknown source. Mireya listened closely, then offered a chilling thought. Some primates use patterned vocal signals not to warn, but to coordinate. If the pulses were communication, then the creature wasn't alone. Before that idea could settle, the ridge microphone captured something else. Movement. Not one source, but 2, then 3. Heavy impacts spaced across different points of the forest, forming a semicircle around the abandoned sensor site. The creature they filmed might have been the one that revealed itself, but it wasn't the only one present. The realization hit with a weight none of the crew expected. The figure captured on camera seemed almost like a scout, not the dominant presence. A tester, an observer, and whatever sent the harmonic pulse might have been answering it. When the drone operator reviewed the final 10 minutes of thermal footage, he found a frame that made him step back from the monitor. There was a second heat signature, smaller but distinctly upright, watching from higher ground. It never moved, never approached. It simply stood still, observing everything below. Bryce immediately flagged the footage as highly sensitive. This was the moment the network would later refuse to air. The final blow came when the ridge microphone recorded one last vocalization, a low, rising hum that matched the earlier pattern, but with a new pulse at the end, a 4th tone. Mireya's voice trembled as she translated the implication. The pattern had changed because the situation had changed. The creature now knew it had been filmed. Bryce shut down the equipment and ordered everyone back inside camp. For the first time in the show's history, the crew agreed without argument. The night wasn't just a breakthrough, it was a warning. As the footage was sealed for review, one thought echoed through every investigator's mind. If this was the creature willing to be seen, what were the ones still hiding capable of?